Hello everyone. In this video I will be talking about cluster analysis and a specific type of a clustering algorithm. So let's get started. So here's what we will be doing. We'll understand the goals of cluster analysis and we'll talk about an algorithm on k-means clustering. Then later on in class we'll solve a simple example of the algorithm, and along the way we learn about a lot of applications of cluster analysis. So before I get started, to get a sense of what does cluster analysis do, let's look at some example. So people from the business background might have heard about using clustering in market research processes. So basically market researchers use clustering to understand the customers and to partition them and to segment them into groups so that they could position and they could sell the products differently to each group of customers. In social network analysis as well, you can use clustering to recognize the communities within a larger group of people. And there are a lot of examples in healthcare as well, where the healthcare providers can cluster the recipients into segments and then facilitate different healthcare solutions towards each of the segments. And also the recommender systems which are used in e-commerce to recommend products to customers also uses cluster analysis to understand the segments of the consumers in their portfolio. So these are some examples and I'll be talking about more as we go. So before we proceed, let's take a look at what does the output of clustering look like. So on this slide you see these data points that are colored in three different groups, and if you think about it, this is essentially how the results of clustering will show up. Once you have a set of data and you divide that into groups, basically the output would look a lot like that. Let's talk about the goal of clustering on this particular slide. Now, every analytics technique that we implement and every task that we do in analytics has a specific objective, and it's very important to understand the goal of that specific technique, and that will help you evaluate the outcomes from that technique. So let's take a look at the goal of clustering. Clustering is the process of examining a collection of points and grouping the points into clusters according to some distance measure. So there are a few important things that stand out in this statement. So one is that we are talking about the process of examining a collection of points, and then we are saying that we are going to group them into clusters according to a distance measure. So later we will talk about what is this distance measure. So essentially, if you think about it, this distance measure is a way in which you can find out the distance, or in other words, similarity between two data points. So with that in mind, let's see what is the goal of clustering. The goal of clustering is that points in the same cluster have a small distance from one another, while points in different clusters are at a large distance from one another. So we have used a distance measure to assign points to groups. Now within a group, when you look at the distance of the points within a group, the distances are low, but when you look at the distance of the points in different groups, the distances are higher. So that is the goal, and that is the criteria that we will use in assigning observations to clusters. So this is a very important slide. I will be talking about the goal of clustering at different points in time. So let's continue. So here, this specific visualization, it's just showing that how data points can be mapped or can be plotted as a visualization. And why is this important? Now, definitely in this illustration, we are talking about XY coordinates. Hence, we're talking about two-dimensional data. Now, data can be from customers, from students, from passengers, etc. But we will have to represent that data as a a numeric visualization. So I'm doing this for two-dimensional, and then later you will understand why we want to do this when we are doing clustering, and we will extend it to a higher dimensionality as well. So to sum it up, what we are saying here is that we have XY plot, which is basically, think about two columns in your data and you're plotting them in a XY visualization. So now let's talk about the measure of distance that I mentioned earlier on when we were talking about the goal of clustering. So basically, distance is a criteria that will be used to find out the similarities between points. Now we talk about Euclidean and non-Euclidean distances, and the main difference that you need to remember is that Euclidean distances are location based. So basically, going back to this visualization, if you have two observations on this visualization, on this XY plot, you can find out the distance between those two based on their location. Or in other words, if you think about, we have coordinates on the globe, and then you can find out distances between those two based on their geographic location. So it's a little bit similar to that. When we talk about Euclidean distance, these are based on the location of points in space, whereas non-Euclidean distances are based on other aspects of the data and not on their location. And we will see some examples of non-Euclidean distance as well. Mainly we will be talking about Euclidean distance. But let me give you an example of non-Euclidean distance before we move on to the next slide. So if you think about documents, and if I gave you a set of documents and I told you to compare their similarity and dissimilarity, you will be thinking about the terms or the words that are used in the documents. And if two documents have a lot of overlap in the terms, then basically they will be more similar than two documents who have a diverse set of words that are used in it. And that is an example of a non-Euclidean distance or similarity measure, because that is not based on distance, so that's not based on the location of points in space. And the main example of Euclidean distance that we will be talking about is the Pythagoras theorem, and this is how you calculate distance based on the Pythagoras theorem. This is something that you all already know. So basically you have 2 points x1, y1, x2, y2, and you know that this is the formula that you can use to find out the distance between x1, y1 and x2, y2. You take the difference of the first coordinates, which is difference of x2 and x1, and you take the difference of y2 and y1, and you square the differences and you sum it up, and then you take the square root of that. This is something that you would have learned in the Pythagoras theorem. And here this is only for 2 coordinates, but you can extend that to any number of coordinates. The formula still remains the same. So basically what we're saying is that the data that we will work with in the type of clustering we will be talking about, we can calculate a Euclidean distance for that data, which essentially means that the coordinates or the columns that we will be able to use in this clustering should only be numeric in nature. Otherwise you cannot find out the Euclidean distance between those observations. This is an extension of the formula to n dimension. So basically here what we're saying is that instead of just looking at x1, x2, we could be looking at a much higher dimensionality, and the formula still remains the same. So I will mainly be talking about partitioning method, or in other words, the type of clustering we will be talking about is called partitioning method, which is given here. And there are mainly 2 types of clustering. One is hierarchical and the other one is partitioning method based. We will be focusing on partitioning method, but I will talk a little bit about hierarchical, so you know that what is it that we haven't covered. So in hierarchical clustering, basically as you see, each point is a cluster in itself, and you repeatedly combine the two closest clusters to form one. So in other words, what we're saying is that we are going to bring out the hierarchy in the data. Now, hierarchy basically represents a structure. So what are some of the examples of hierarchy that you would have encountered? The one thing that comes to mind is an organizational chart. So basically, an hierarchy can be displayed or represented like a tree diagram where you have different levels, and that's how hierarchy helps to see the structure. So what happens in hierarchical clustering is that you start by assuming every data point in a cluster by itself, and then you consequently you keep calculating the distance between observations, and you keep combining the closest observations into a single cluster till all the observations are in the same cluster. So that is known as hierarchical clustering. In the partitioning method, on the other hand, we always maintain a set of clusters. So what that means is that you decide the number of partitions or clusters that you want to have, and then you start with a set of randomly chosen partitions, and then you keep improving on those partitions. We will be talking a lot more about partitioning methods, specifically k-means clustering, which is an example of a partitioning method based clustering. So let's talk about k-means clustering, which is an example of partitioning method. And this is the algorithm that we will be focusing on in this course, and we'll do a lot of examples and case studies, and that will give you a very good understanding about what are the requirements on the input data, what are the aspects of the output that indicate that it's a good output, and what should you do to iterate and change and make that output better. So let's continue. So before going through these steps of k-means clustering, I want to take you through an example visually, and that will make the algorithm very clear. So let's get started. So basically, let's assume that you have started with a set of these observations. So these red points, let's say these represent a data point, and again this is only two-dimensional because it's easy to represent visualizations in lower dimension. So we start with these observations, and suppose we want to create k-means clustering out of it. So how would we proceed? The first thing we have to do is to choose a value of k. So k represents the number of clusters. In this case, we have chosen k is equal to 3. So basically, we are saying that we are going to create 3 clusters in this data. So how do we get started? Once we've chosen a k, we will randomly pick up k seeds. So you might be wondering, what does this term seed represent? So seed is basically an existing observation in the data to begin with. And why is it called a random seed? So basically, if you have to create 3 clusters, you will randomly pick up 3 observations in the data and assume that that is representing a center of a cluster. So I'm going to talk about the center of a cluster a bit more in a bit. So basically, in step 2, what I have done is that if k is equal to 3, these 3 randomly chosen observations are the k seeds. Now let's proceed. Now the next thing we have to do, which is what we're doing here, is to assign observations to the 3 centers. So in other words, for each of these red observation, we are going to calculate a distance from 1, 2 and 3 centers, and then assign that red observation to the center which is closest to that observation. So as an example, let's say if I was working with this particular observation. Now this observation is closest to the center 3, which is this black point here. So this observation will be assigned to this center. Now this can be done in a few ways. One way to do it is that for a given observation, I'm going to calculate 3 distance measures, Euclidean distance measures, one with this, one with this, one with this, and then find out whichever is the minimum Euclidean distance. You say that that observation belongs to the cluster represented by this particular center. Now here visually we have done the same thing by using perpendicular bisectors, and perpendicular bisectors are just a geometric way of doing that, where you divide the space into 3 parts using a bisector of a line that is drawn between the centers. But you don't need to worry too much about this, because like I said, it is simply calculate the Euclidean distances from all the 3 centers and then just assign the observation to the closest seat. So what happens after that is that here's what we get. So if you can look what I was talking about, that now we have these observations and there are 3 clusters. So based on that method, now we have finally assigned each observation to a particular cluster. Now remember, each observation is assigned only to a single cluster. So in that sense, the clusters are mutually exclusive. Okay? And also remember that every observation is assigned to a cluster. You cannot have an observation which was not assigned to a cluster. So this is that. Now what we are going to do is that once we have got these 1 and 2 and 3 clusters, we are going to update the center. Now the center is also called as the centroid. So we are going to update the centroid. So what will the centroid be, or in other words, what will the new center be? For this cluster, the new center will be calculated by finding out the average of the coordinates of each of these points. Similarly, average of these points will give you this new center here. Similarly, average of these points will give you the new center here. So in this step, we will calculate, we have found out the new centers, and then we are going to repeat, or we are going to iterate our initial steps. So we will reassign points to clusters just like we had done before, and we are going to continue to do that till there is no more change in the clusters. So in other words, when suppose from step n to n plus 1, if you see that there is no movement of observations across clusters, that's when you stop iterating. So that is when you say that this is my clustering solution.